Hello, Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator podcast. I'm your host, Dana, and today we are doing an all new episode of Be True Hollywood Story, Amanda Batula. Let's get into it. Happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone's had an amazing week, and I hope you are excited for an all new episode of Be True Hollywood Story today, Amanda Batula. I know typically we do reality roundup on Monday, and I know these episodes are normally video, but neither of those things are happening today in lieu of Be True Hollywood Story. So, you know what? I figured with everything going on with Amanda and West and Sierra, it was the perfect time to do another episode of Be True Hollywood Story and to do a deep dive on someone from Summer House. And who better to do this deep dive on than Amanda Batula, given that she is very much in the news these days. I did an episode of Be True Hollywood Story on Kyle Cook right before the holidays. So some aspects of this episode will be a bit repetitive when it comes to the Kyle and Amanda stuff because, those of you who know how I do these episodes know that I will watch everything that these people have ever been on. I will read every book that they've written. I will listen to every podcast episode that they've ever been on. Now, for Amanda, she hasn't been on many podcasts, and I did do a entire Summer House rewatch recently when I was doing the Kyle Cook episode. So given all of that, I felt like it didn't really make sense to sort of redo that work. But since I've already done that kind of back watch of Summer House, I figured, I've done that recently, and this is the perfect time to pick somebody else from Summer House, somebody who is in the midst of a scandal. So, all of this being said, I want to make sure that you guys know that I have done my best here today to be able to find all of the information that I have been able to find. Like Kyle Cook, it was actually really difficult for me to find a lot of information about Amanda pre the show. I did the best that I was able to do by going through Reddit threads and doing the little research that want to do. But at the same time, if I had had more time and more resources, I might have been able to look into this a little bit further. I would have loved to have talked to people that she had gone to school with or people that she had worked with before, but I just did not have, again, the time or resources to be able to do that. So I hope nobody comes for me for this episode. I'm probably just being a bit paranoid as I get into it, but like I said, I did my absolute best to try to be able to find information that was new and novel to us, but sometimes that can be difficult to do. So I am the Bravo investigator, but I am also just a girl doing her best. So today is Amanda Batula, Be True Hollywood Story. For those of you who do not know Be True Hollywood Story, this is a limited series that I do on the podcast where I talk about how a Bravoleb got from where they are in their childhood to where they are today. So it talks about from birth to scandal to stardom and everything in between, talks about how your favorite Bravoleb got to where they are today. So today we are talking about Amanda Batula from the show Summer House. And we are going to start with Chapter 1, Early Life and Amanda Factoids. So Amanda was born on July 24th, 1991 in Hillsborough, New Jersey. She's very close with her parents, Frank Batula and Donna Batula. She is of Polish and Italian descent. Her parents have actually been married since 1988, which is quite a long time. She has a brother named Frankie who is private. Now, when she was in school, she was in a friend group called the Nine. Now there are 7 of them, which means that some people got cut, which is how Amanda explained it on the Not Skinny But Not Fat podcast, which is interesting considering something that we find out about her a little bit later. In school, she did play sports, but in middle school, because she didn't have boobs, she was called Pancake. And then she got huge boobs in high school and was called Tits McGee, and people made fun of her for her boobs. She has basically been wanting a breast reduction since college and has always sort of had issues with her boobs. Now, when it comes to change, Amanda is a person who is terrified of change and always has been. As a kid, she was terrified of even changes like changing banisters in the household. She would hold on to the banisters for dear life when her parents wanted to change the banisters. So I think it's really interesting to hear how much she hates change and how much that's affected her life, because I think that may play a role into why it took her so long to eventually end her relationship with Kyle and why it took her so long to be completely honest with Sierra about her relationship with West. I'm just saying, people who don't like change, I think they take a lot longer to be more honest, if that makes sense. Now, we know that Amanda is very close with her parents, so close, in fact, that her wedding to Kyle actually took place in the backyard of her parents' house in New Jersey. And another fun fact about Amanda's family, both of her parents are talented artists. In April 2024, Frank Batula shared via Instagram that he constructed an art supply cabinet for his wife, an artistic feat of its own accord. And she wrote, "Wow, nice work, Frank, really impressive, almost as impressive as Donna's paintings," which was the comment of a friend. Now, Amanda, like I said, has always had a great relationship with her parents who still live in New Jersey. And sometimes she'll drop the dogs off there and then she'll just stay for dinner. It's kind of like an escape for her, and they've been so helpful. So we know that Amanda and Kyle had every intention to move to the suburbs, move to New Jersey once they started to have kids. That obviously never happened because they ended up getting separated. But we know that this was part of their plan. She always wanted to be close to her parents. One, they take care of the dogs right now, but two, she also thought it would be really helpful for when they had kids that her parents being around and being so close would be really, really helpful to her. Another fun fact, her dad doesn't watch the show, which is probably for the best considering how awful we've seen Kyle treat her over the years. And I can't imagine that her dad would have a really good relationship with him if he really saw the way that Kyle spoke to her. Now, apparently, Amanda has a potty mouth and admits it, and this is something that she is very proud of with herself. So these are just some fun factoids that I was able to find out about her. She also apparently hates the sound of her own voice. She doesn't like people, but she also wants people to be afraid of her. That's interesting. She doesn't like people, but wants people to be afraid of her. I guess she wants to be one of these people that is revered, where you're almost like, I don't know, people think that you're like famous or scary or something like that, and wants people to sort of look at her like in a way that, oh, you should be afraid of this girl. I don't really know. I think that's an interesting thing to say. Her dream job as a kid was to be a cashier. But also she did acting camp as a kid, but only had like one line because that's all she could handle. So the fact that she ended up on Summer House, we know was sort of a fluke, and we'll get into that later, but it just shows that being on TV was never necessarily her bread and butter. Another fun fact, she's a terrible texter. This is interesting considering the fact that we heard Kyle say on a recent episode that his text thread with Amanda is pretty dismal, given that he'll be like, "Hey babe, I landed. Hey, the set went well. Hey, just woke up," and she won't respond to any of it. So I think that sort of speaks to who she is as a person anyways, that she has always been the type of person that has not been a good texter. Now she also says that she doesn't know how to lie or be fake. Well, Amanda, that's not true, okay? Because given what ended up happening between you and West, you did end up lying about it for quite some time, and you were fake about it. So that's really interesting. She said that she can't hide her emotions, and this is something about her. Now, I wonder if this is something that came up in the later weeks when it came to her and West and Sierra starting to find out, because I heard that she had started trying to ghost Sierra in those later weeks. And maybe it's because she couldn't hide her emotions and she was really afraid of what she would end up saying to Sierra when she, I guess, didn't feel like she was ready yet. Um, when it comes to her history with men, she was in two long-term relationships prior to Kyle. Her aunt apparently once told her that guys don't approach women because they're nervous and shy. So after her long-term relationships, when she became single in the city, she started really trying to put herself out there and getting numbers from people, which is something that she didn't want to do anything with, but it was very empowering for her to just sort of put herself out there and be like, "Can I get a number? Can I get a number?" When it comes to work, she went to the University of Connecticut, graduating in 2013 with a degree in communication design. Now, I don't know exactly when this was. I don't know if it was when she was younger, but at some point in time, she worked for Young Chefs Academy, teaching pizza making classes for kids' birthday parties. That's a very interesting job and not something that I've ever heard of. After she finished school, she was an intern for Rent the Runway, and she lived at home while she was interning. And then she got a job as a junior graphic designer for L'Occitane, where she was making $50,000. She worked there for 5 years, and she did that job for 3 years while she was filming. And this was a skincare company. Now, when it comes to her finances, a lot of people have believed that her parents basically back her up. Amanda has said that she does have a trust fund set up by her parents from childhood, but she has clarified that she has full access to her own bank accounts, manages her own taxes, and dismisses claims that her parents control her money or that she acts like a child. Now, I do believe that she is still on their phone plan, but a lot of people are. When she first moved to the city, she started going to the gym a lot, but that ended up sort of taking a back burner. I feel like when we all start working full time and we're not that into working out, I feel like that's something that can happen. I mean, I remember trying to train to become a police officer. That was something that I wanted to do when I was working my first job. And because it was 8 to 5 and it was absolutely killing me, I absolutely could not find the time to go to the gym once I started working full time. But when she moved into the city, that's when she worked for the skincare brand. And that's when her dad ended up cutting her off, except for her phone plan, because like I said, it's a family plan, right? So it's a saving for everybody. Now, there was a few times where she had to ask her family for help with rent in the first few months when she was in the city, but it was from her own money that her dad had put into her account. So I guess I don't know if she's talking about the the trust fund or an account that she has herself separately that her dad was putting money into. And some of her biggest flexes are that Rihanna has slid into her DMs. Now, we know that recently Rihanna has unfollowed her, given all of the contention between Amanda and Wes, but that was one of her biggest flexes at one point in time. And she's also apparently close with Renee Rapp. So those are some things about Amanda that are fun and interesting. Now, apparently in college, she was in a long distance relationship. And she was really trying to hide her boobs a lot during that relationship because she really hated her boobs. She's always felt that way. She would wear big shirts because she felt like if she wore things that were tight, she would look slutty. Now, I wonder if that has anything to do with the way that she's been dressing lately, which is a la Wes Wilson, where she's just basically wearing his clothes. But I thought it was really interesting to hear her say that she hates her boobs that much that she's often wearing big clothes. But some of her favorite stores to shop in are Zara and Revolve. Those are some of her favorite stores. So, like I said, it was really hard to find a lot of information about who Amanda Batula was prior to the show. But here are some things that I was able to find on Reddit. And Reddit, is not the most reputable source, but it is a place where the public goes. And if you are looking for someone who may have known Amanda Batula in the past, Reddit is sort of one of those places. So here's a few things I was able to find out on Reddit. So somebody said, so my best friend went to the University of Connecticut, and we are Amanda's age. Her friends were in her sorority, but my friend was in a different one. She knew of Amanda and always said she was chill and had a boyfriend at the time. She has since reached out to the mutual friends since all of this happened, and all of them were shocked, but also hadn't talked to Amanda in a while. So it was out of character for her in college to do something like this, but obviously we have been out of college for over 10 years now. So again, it's sort of difficult to say when somebody is giving like information about somebody from 10 years ago. We all change over time, so it's really hard to say whether this is like Amanda's MO necessarily. Somebody said, I knew her and was friends with her when we worked together in the city. She is very different now than she was 10 years ago. She was quiet, a bit shy, and she seemed to be very self-conscious and have low self-esteem. For a long time, she commuted into the city by train from her parents' house in New Jersey before she moved to the city, so it was tough to hang out with her outside of work before then. She would go through cycles of hiding diet and weight loss pills under her desk. However, she's a very talented graphic designer and I love her work. Before Kyle, she had only had one boyfriend from college. I think they broke up for like a year before Kyle and her had met, and it took her a long time to get over. She did meet Kyle at a friend's party in the city. I met him a few times, also came across as a first class asshole, and we never understood what she saw in him. At the time, his job, quote unquote, was illegally subletting, renting out his apartment on Airbnb, and he couldn't afford the car he had. He actually broke up with her to go on the show, and when he did, he sent her an orchid to her desk as an apology, and she was extremely depressed, crying all day, huddled in the corner. Her and some of her friends got their own summer house in the Hamptons shortly after that, and that is when she was really trying to get back with Kyle. That's how she ended up being the booty call and taking her top off in the hot tub in the first episode she was seen in. She got back with him that summer, and the rest is history. So, I mean, I don't know about him illegally subletting, renting out his apartment. It would be illegal if your building does not allow subletting or renting, which is definitely a possibility, but I don't know how this person would know that. We do know of all things about Kyle that he is a very legit business person, so I doubt that he would be doing this legitimately. And then when this per or illegitimately, and when this person says he couldn't afford his car, okay. I mean, I don't really know. You have to take these things for what they will. This person went on to say she didn't change a ton after the first season filmed, only after it aired. When it aired, someone in the office was playing the episode on their computer with everyone huddled around it and in shock that she was literally getting naked on TV for this guy. It became an HR issue and she was called in to talk about it. I think there was some agreement that she didn't mention where she worked or something, but after that, she became very withdrawn. She was never mean, at least not to me or our colleagues, just very sensitive. This recent behavior definitely came out of left field, and they're obviously talking about West, to me and some of our other friends, but I guess that's what you get with reality TV. And no, she is not really friends with many of the girls she was close with prior to going on the show, but I'd say the breaking point was really her marrying Kyle when no one wanted her to. And then somebody else said her and some of her friends got their own summer house in the Hamptons shortly after that. And that's when she was really trying to get back with Kyle. A lot of people believe that she stayed at that friend's house in the Hamptons in an effort to get back together with Kyle and in an effort to be on the show. I don't know if that's necessarily true because, we're still just trying to get to know Amanda to the best of our ability, but that's definitely very possible that he broke up with her right beforehand. And then she found a group of friends who were already going to the Hamptons and were staying nearby, or maybe it was her attempt to get back together with him. But it's very interesting to hear about this HR issue because, yeah, she was kind of getting naked and having sex on camera in those first few seasons. But I heard her say on a more recent podcast that they never have sex in the house anymore. And I wonder if that was one of the reasons that she almost got in trouble for it at work. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like Jesse Solomon was basically fired from finance because of the way that you come off on reality TV. So I'm surprised that she was able to keep her job, but it does make a lot of sense because she never said the name of the company on television. Somebody else said on Reddit, posted yesterday, but my wife went to UConn with Amanda. My wife was a year younger and in a different sorority, but only had nice things to say about their interactions together. She said she was considered like the cool, hot, and like a lot of her friends. Still follows a good amount of them on Instagram, etc. My wife did notice the other day that she is seeing Amanda appear a lot less in those girls' stories and not at events that you'd expect her to attend with her college friends. Somebody said, I've seen screenshots allegedly from someone who went to high school with her, and they said that Amanda's friend group called themselves the Nine, and their existence revolved around getting with the most popular guys in school. And as I had mentioned on the Not Skinny But Not Fat podcast, Amanda said that the nine is now seven because they kicked two out. So again, very weird to hear her say that she's never had an issue with people. Somebody else said, as someone who went to high school with Amanda, I can confirm that this is true. I can say that though coming to a new school freshman year, she was in my science class and was the nicest person ever. Even after graduating, I've seen her a couple of times and still nothing bad to say. Seeing how things played out is pretty unfortunate, but it does seem like she is still in the high school era. I mean, that could be very possible, right? I mean, like the way that she's acting with all of the Sierra stuff and acting where she's just sort of hiding and cowering instead of being honest, it is very high school and it is very immature. So maybe she is still sort of reverting to those days. That being said, I sort of feel like reading a lot of stuff off of Reddit that is at least 10, 15 years old from when she was in high school isn't necessarily reminiscent of the person that she is today because she is an adult, unless we are now thinking of Amanda as possibly a lot more immature than we initially thought. And maybe she is still sort of in that high school mentality. Somebody else on Reddit said, I have a few friends who used to work with her and they were surprised she popped up on reality TV because she was boring in real life. Um, Somebody said, I worked with her remotely at La Octane, like in 2016. She may have been on Summer House, but I didn't watch at the time or know what it was. She was a bitch. Somebody said, I know somebody went to high school with her and she never had anything bad to say. Somebody else said, I went on a date with a guy who went to high school with her. He told me that he was very close to her and still talks to her. He said she was always such a kind and genuine human being. Someone said, in terms of, because a lot of people are talking about her trust fund and the money that she gets from her family. Somebody said her parents' house is worth like almost $1 million, which isn't that much. They bought the land and built it themselves. Maybe not rich, but definitely very comfortable. And then the person came back in and said that their ETA was incorrect. Their deed price in 2008, which was the year that the house was built, was 1,354,790. So they've got money for sure. I mean, that really isn't that much for a house these days. I mean, $1 million for a house is really pretty standard. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're rich, but she has confirmed the trust fund of it all. So it's interesting to hear what some people on Reddit have said. You've heard people say that she's very, very nice, and then you've heard people say that she's absolutely awful. I would have loved to have spoken to someone that she used to work with because she did mention in season two that there was somebody that worked below her who hated her. And then we have a bunch of people on Reddit who say that they've worked with her or know people who have worked with her and that she was a bitch. So I would have loved to have been able to find someone who worked with her in the past, but there just isn't the time and resources for me to be able to find something like that. All right, let's move on to chapter two, Amanda and Kyle. Now, this chapter is going to be kind of repetitive from my Be True Hollywood Story episode on Kyle Cook, because obviously the Amanda and Kyle chapter is pretty much synonymous to that chapter. But we'll start from the beginning. They met when Amanda was 24 years old. So she had gone into a party. It was a sorority friend's birthday, and she saw Kyle there. Now, Kyle had actually just met her sorority friend in the Hamptons, and that's how he had gotten invited. She was drunk, he was drunk, and there was these chocolate cake shots that there was no utensils for, but basically the way to eat them was to go in it with like a knife or a fork or something like that. But because there was no utensils, Kyle was just using his finger. And so she said something like, "Oh, someone's eating the cake shots." And that was basically it. And then Kyle asked her for margaritas, and that was right after the party. So they went out right after. She ended up sleeping over that night, but they didn't have sex and he didn't try. And their relationship pretty much progressed from there. She was sleeping over all of the time. She had met his brother and his serious girlfriend. And then when he said that he was going on Summer House, which was that year, so basically they had been seeing each other for like 8 months. But like I said, seriously enough that she had met his brother and his brother's serious girlfriend, he was like, "Hey, I'm going to be going on this show on Bravo. It's probably best that I be single." So he broke up with her to go on the Bravo show. Now, the rumors out there is that Amanda was actually Kyle's hookup, that they were in like a situationship for that 8 months prior. But as she said, they were actually dating and they were, not in like an official exclusive relationship, but serious enough that they had been dating for 8 months and for him to have broken up with her to go on the show. Now, Amanda ended up having a friend who was staying in a share house nearby. And so her and Kyle ended up hooking up a lot during that first season because she was staying so close. Now, in the second season, after Kyle and Amanda had full on gotten together, they had gotten in so many fights over and over and over again about, guess what? Him drinking too much and saying that he doesn't want to marry her. And that's when he's like, "Summer should be fun. Amanda, not fun." We also find out in season three that Kyle cheated on Amanda and the whole friend group knew about it. Kyle had said that he had blacked out drunk on a guy's trip, and then he woke up with a random girl in his bed. He saw Amanda the next day, and he didn't know that he had it in him to cheat on her. He ended up hiding it from her for almost a year. She found out about it a few months prior to them filming for season three, I believe. And Everett was the one who had previously dated Lindsay, and he was in season one. Everett was the one who told Amanda, and Kyle sort of felt like Everett had betrayed him because of it. So the cheating had happened 2 weeks before the filming of season two, but she didn't end up finding out about it until right before season three. Now, the reason that she ended up finding out about it is because Taylor Strecker was interviewing a cast member who said that there had been a cheating scandal on season three coming up. And then people who had heard this episode ended up DMing Amanda. Taylor Strecker is a very close friend of Hannah Berner and of Stassi Schroeder, and she's going to be on that new show, House of Stassi. But in that episode, where she was talking to previous cast member Stephen McGee, he made it pretty clear that he was talking about Kyle cheating on Amanda. So I'm going to read this quote from the episode for you guys. It says, "Really? Well, honey, I'm here for all of those grenades, cheating scandals. Oh, excuse you. You want to give us another one? Very interesting. Just give us teasers, cheating scandals. Well, there's only one group of people that can be cheating. Oh, honey, I know, I know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Well, Stephen, thank you for joining me on my podcast. I love you very much." Um, So, yeah, that's how she ended up sort of hearing about it. And after that, her trust was broken because she felt like he kind of kept crossing the line by continuing to go and get drunk. So, this was kind of the precipice for the issues in their relationship because if he was able to get so blacked out drunk that he doesn't remember cheating on her, then he is putting himself in those same situations over and over and over again every time he goes out and gets drunk because it's very possible that he could cheat on her again and not remember. And this becomes literally the reason for the demise of the relationship because she is never able to get over it. Now, later on, Lindsay went to lunch with a girlfriend who told her that 4 months prior, so this was in season 3 or 4. My apologies for not having this offhand. Lindsay had gone to lunch with a girlfriend who had told her that 4 months prior, Kyle was seen making out with a girl in the city at a club in public. Everett told Lindsay when Kyle had cheated last time, and she didn't say anything because she didn't want to get in the middle of it. But this time, Lindsay tells Danielle, who tells Paige. So Lindsay feels compelled to tell Kyle on his birthday now because it's out, and that's what was happening in the episode. So she's like, "Hey, Kyle, I just want to tell you this because a few people know about it now." Kyle ends up saying that he can't deny it because he had a huge night out in April and blacked out and doesn't know what happened. He says, "I've been unfaithful since I was 16, and I don't think human beings are meant to be monogamous." But after he cheated a year ago, he said that it changed him because it made him realize that he wanted to be with Amanda. But at the same time, when he does talk to Amanda about this, he says that he had plenty of nights in April when he was selfish. So when he tells her this, she ends up walking away, getting up and walking away. And, it's basically Amanda telling Kyle to go and find out if it's true or not. She puts it on him to go figure it out. He ends up finding the number of the girl. He asks her. She says, "No, nothing happened between us. I don't even know you," something to that effect. But we never really knew if this was true or not, right? So it's very weird. And when he ends up messaging the girl, she's like, "Yeah, I've never met you, but who knows if that was sort of set up." We never saw those texts. We never saw Lindsay talk about it again. We never knew if it if there was any other additional evidence that could have been, put into this. But like I said, this was the main reason that Amanda ends up not being able to trust Kyle for the rest of their relationship. Now, when Amanda tells her parents that her dad when Amanda tells her parents that Kyle did cheat on her, her dad was like, "What the fuck are you doing with this guy? And when do I get to hit him?" Her mom said that he doesn't get another chance and that's it for her. Her dad says that it's weak and it's going to take the family a long time to forgive him. In season 3, he says that Amanda and I have been together for 3 years and serious for almost 2. And now he's down to move in with her and wants to marry her. So we do see a whole different Kyle in that regard. Like once he gets to season 3, he is very much in a place where he's like, "Okay, I want to be serious. I want to move in with her. I want to do all of these things." But when he goes ahead and asks Frank Batula for Amanda's hand in marriage, when he goes to propose to her, which I believe is in season 4. Sorry, guys. I have this a little bit off when it comes to season 3 and 4, and that's because I haven't been watching this that recently. I'd watched it back a few months ago. But when he asks for Amanda's hand in marriage, basically Frank laughs at him, right? Because he's just, I don't really feel comfortable saying yes, is what he says. But if this is something that Amanda wants, it'll take me time to get comfortable again. So Kyle proposes to Amanda that Labor Day, which is September 1st, on a boat. He gave her a 2.5-carat custom diamond engagement ring created by New York jewelry designer Stephanie Gottlieb. In season 4, though, we have Kyle complaining to Carl about their sex life. The last 10 months since they got engaged, he felt like she hasn't been present, and they've been having growing pains living together. There's been no movement on the wedding. They don't have a venue. And this is where we see them really struggling in their relationship. Now, neither of them have ever lived with someone before, and Kyle had never been to Amanda's place, or not that often, apparently. Apparently, she was always coming over to his place. And so they realized how different they really were in terms of living together because she likes to come home and decompress, and he likes to work from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So they realized that they are very different in terms of how they live. She thought that they would be spending more quality time together once they moved in together, but he just works all night and she just wants to relax. He also found out through living together that Amanda doesn't work out or shower every day after living with her. And he feels like he's always nagging her to pick up her stuff. He complains to Carl that she complains that she's tired all the time when he wants to have sex. And when she gets home, she wants to do nothing when they have actually so much to do. He tells the camera that he's engaged to someone in their 20s and he doesn't know where her sex drive went when he feels like he's with someone in their 80s. Now, we don't know how depressed Amanda was during this period of time or if she was going through a bout of depression, but we know that with her bouts of depression or with pretty much anyone's bouts of depression, sometimes it can really end up crippling you. So I think that that makes a lot of sense if their sex life was sort of waning, because if she was going through a period of depression at this time, I think it would make a lot of sense for her to sort of withdraw in that regard. He ends up complaining to Amanda about it on camera in terms of their sex life, and she leaves to go to the bathroom. She's like, "Come on, I cannot believe that you're doing this." And he's also just really upset that they're making no effort to be intimate and that they don't have a wedding venue. He does not understand why it's such a sensitive subject and why she doesn't want to talk about it. And it's like, dude, she does not want to talk about their sex life on camera. Like, are you kidding me? Right. So at this point, they're having wedding issues, communication issues, cohabitation issues, and intimacy issues. But Amanda says that, she procrastinates when she gets overwhelmed, which is like what I was saying with her bouts of depression. She gets crippled by it. And Kyle can be very hard on her when really a lot of it has to do with her anxiety and depression. And when she gets stressed out, she sort of, it becomes hard for her to get things done, but he can be really, really mean and cruel to her about it. So one night, Kyle ends up going out with the guys in season 4, and he wouldn't answer her calls. They get in this huge fight, and she asks him if he wants to be single again, and he says yes. I literally feel like watching this back, you were literally just watching over and over again this couple who absolutely hates each other. And I feel like we missed the part of time where she and him were truly in love, which is something that she said on the last episode of Summer House, where she's like, Kyle and I recently went to couples therapy, and I wasn't able to tell the therapist the period of time where we were like actually in love with each other. Now Kyle ends up complaining to his mom during season 4 about the way that Amanda is and the way that she lives. And he's hoping that she'll change. And his mom tells him, you have to marry someone for who they are. You have to love her for the way that she is, and you can't expect her to change. And I truly believe that because he did not listen to this advice, this is how they ended up where they ended up, because I think they both knew that they were not compatible. I think that moving in with someone is a period of time where you can really get to know whether you are compatible with someone. And because neither of them really took that in, they both noticed how different they were when living together, but they never took that in terms of, okay, maybe this isn't meant to be. Maybe we shouldn't be living together. Maybe we shouldn't be together. But instead, they decided to just keep being together regardless of these huge cracks in the way that they existed as a couple. Season 6 was the summer of Kyle and Amanda's wedding, and Amanda cannot get a hold of him one night, which was like the first night into the season. Now, apparently, a few months ago, this had happened where she couldn't get a hold of him, and she went to her parents' house in New Jersey in the middle of the night. This is apparently when Amanda had Kyle sign a contract that she never actually gave to her parents. So this wasn't like a formal contract where basically if something happened between now and the wedding, where he couldn't control his drinking, he would owe her parents all of the money back. Now, again, this wasn't a formal contract. This is something that she had just had him draw up in Word. This is not something that her parents were even fully aware of. This is just what happened after they had this massive fight. There was apparently a time where after calling Kyle 27 times and him not answering, Amanda tells Sierra and Paige that her biggest fear is that he will go out one night, get so drunk, and cheat on her and not remember. And at one point, he goes to the car and cries and says that he's so miserable. Kyle tells Danielle that the only thing that he thinks that Amanda and him have in common at this point is lover boy. And on the season of their wedding, which is season 6, Kyle makes the announcement to the entire group requesting that they be supportive of his and Amanda's relationship until the wedding. Now, this was after the girls told her that Kyle said that the only thing that they have in common is lover boy. But again, this is Kyle trying to find a way to just get through the summer and get through all of their issues without actually looking into them. You can't just sit there and say hey, be supportive of our relationship when she's calling you a million times, when you guys are getting in these huge fights, when you guys seem so incredibly unhappy. Now, they didn't get a prenup, which we talk about later on when we talk about Loverboy. And Kyle tries to bring this up with Amanda just a few weeks before the wedding. Amanda didn't really understand in terms of how it would benefit her, and she didn't really think that this is something that she should do. It sort of reminded her of divorce, but this is something that she has said later on that everyone should get a prenup and that she wishes that she had done that. Kyle and Amanda get married on camera in her family's backyard in New Jersey on September 25th, 2021, which cost $200,000. So they apparently did not get any money from Bravo for their wedding, which is really interesting. I wonder when Bravo does pay for these things and when they don't, because I feel like sometimes they do, but I don't know. Maybe that's a decision that you have to make with the cast. Amanda walked down the aisle wearing a white A-line style bridal gown with a long veil, while Kyle was dressed in a navy and black trim tuxedo. Since their wedding, Kyle has expressed being worried that Amanda is so lazy, he'll be the one taking care of the kids. Amanda went off birth control and lost a lot of weight and wasn't getting her period. And they thought that she might be pregnant on Winter House, but this was a false alarm. In season 8, Kyle told Amanda that he feels very lonely in their marriage. And we find out at the reunion that she actually struggles with depression, which is what he actually knew about. So it kind of feels very fucked up that he was talking about feeling lonely in their marriage when he knew that she was really struggling. Now, when Amanda said that she didn't want to leave Loverboy, but she also wanted to do her own thing, Kyle freaked out and called her a fucking bitch, and said that he really needs her right now for Loverboy because Loverboy was tanking. Now, this is when she wanted to take on the swimsuit line and do something for herself. Now, Amanda did end up partnering with a swim brand, but that's when Kyle decided to become a DJ. On the last season, Amanda expressed not being sure if she wants kids, but she has always expressed wanting to be a mom. Kyle expressed how he's in his 40s and he isn't a dad yet, and he couldn't believe that he isn't a dad by now. At the last reunion, when Kyle asked her if she was ready for kids, she says, "I'm ready to have kids with someone who's ready to have kids with me." Amanda said at the reunion that they actually don't spend a lot of time together. He works constantly, travels to DJ gigs. So it really is just drawing her closer to not wanting a family with him because she just sort of feels like she has one foot out the door because they are not spending a lot of time together. She did not want to marry a DJ, and because she's never really gotten over the cheating thing. Now, when it comes to the cheating, there have been multiple rumors since, obviously. There have been Dumois rumors over the years. There's a Dumois blind that said that now that this reality show is back on the air, seems like a good time to air some dirty laundry about a certain soon-to-be 40 cast member. Friend of a friend was hooking up with this married man last summer when the season was filming. No shockers. They were given his past cheating history. Hope wifey didn't sign a prenup after all. And then another Doom line said, "Subject, let's cook. Message. This Bravo entrepreneur turned DJ was seen getting extra close with someone who wasn't his partner during a night out following an event for his company. Is another breakup in the cards for this summer? Maybe she has the reason for not wanting him to go out on the town until 4 a.m." There were also a ton of Reddit posts from the last few years where people were saying it's like basically an open secret in New York that Amanda is aware that he goes out and cheats. And then in June 2024, Face Reality 16 posted a video about Kyle being seen out in Charleston canoodling with a mystery woman. Page 6 spoke to the person who took the video in the pre-dawn hours of November 11th, 2023, sorry. The eyewitness echoed what they told Face Reality 16, which is that they allegedly saw a seemingly drunk cook making out with the woman in a dark corner right before the eyewitness began recording. The eyewitness also claimed they saw Cook 41 leave with her. Now, Leva Bonaparte from Southern Charm, Southern Hospitality, went to bat for Kyle in a lengthy direct message sent to Face Reality 16, where she said that she was at Lamar's with some of her friends when her employee, star Joe Bradley, texted her saying that he wanted to bring Kyle in to see the new spot. Leva insisted that Cook was not drunk and that she was able to show him around and have a pretty extensive conversation with him about some of the things that they had both been up to recently. She said that she also introduced the Loverboy founder to her husband, with whom Cook also had an in-depth conversation. Leva said that she and Cook then had a cocktail or two, but nothing crazy. Addressing the woman in the video, Leva explained that she is a longtime mutual friend of hers and Cook's, who is also in a very committed relationship. Leva claimed that the woman prefers to remain anonymous and she is not part of the reality TV community. But she got a chance to catch up with Kyle for a maximum of 5 minutes before the two ladies left together. Kyle and our friend were simply catching up on life since she is now has a family and has established herself in her profession. Kyle was congratulating her, and this was purely a friendly interaction. She added, "It really upsets me that this is being spun into something more than friendly. Hey, I'm proud of you, buddy conversation." So those were some of the rumors that were going on prior. Now, I ended up getting a DM a few months back about Kyle allegedly cheating on Amanda in June 2023. So this person had messaged me and said that they were at this celebrity cornhole tournament where there was the guy from Ginny and Georgia was there, Scott Porter, and Ryan Lochte was there, and Kyle Cook was there. So they were all at this bar after this celebrity cornhole tournament. And the girl who messaged me saw Kyle make out with this girl who he didn't even know for a long time. And she had sent me some pictures, not pictures of him making out, but pictures of him extremely, extremely inebriated. So there have been these rumors for years and years on end. I guess it doesn't really matter anymore considering that they are now separated, but let's basically get into that. So at BravoCon, we didn't really see them spending much time together. Amanda referred to Kyle as Mr. Batula, and they didn't address any of these rumors that had gone on right before. So right before BravoCon, there was these page 6 rumors that Kyle and Amanda were in a weird place right now, which is a very weird article to come out because it doesn't really say much. It just says that they were in a weird place. But then after BravoCon, Dumois posted that Kyle and Amanda were living separately and that it was basically confirmed. Amanda ended up responding with a joke video saying that, like, "Oh yeah, I've moved out," and she's showing herself in like Lindsay's baby's dollhouse, or it was like a tiny dog house or something like that, and she was making a joke that this was her new house. And she has basically confirmed that she was lying then because they were separated at that point. The season 10 premiere of Summer House came out obviously recently, showing a scene of Amanda telling Lindsay and Sierra that Kyle stayed out so late one night that he fell asleep at a fan's apartment and came home at 6 a.m. Fans then became enraged about this and went searching for the night in question. And a fan account ended up finding a photo of Kyle drinking a Truly out late in an apartment with the timestamp of 5:30. But Amanda ended up responding to that post saying, "Surprisingly, this is not the night that I was referring to." After this story kind of took the media by storm, Kyle went to the media and made the following statement. "There's no excuse for staying out as late as I did, but I want to be clear that I did not sleep at a fan's apartment. I was at an event that Amanda chose not to attend, which moved to a bar and then to an after party. I don't use anything to keep myself wired, so I think I ended up falling asleep on a couch and suddenly it was almost 6 a.m. Do I regret the situation? Absolutely. But that's the truth and the full extent of what happened." And this is such a funny, statement because he's basically confirming what was said, right? He's like, "Did I fall asleep at a fan's apartment? No. Did I fall asleep on a couch at a party that a fan was having? Yes." Which is basically the exact same thing. Kyle and Amanda also have 2 dogs together, Reese and Ryder, who I think they are splitting custody with right now. Now, when I was doing the last episode of Be True Hollywood Story on Kyle Cook, I was doing this right before the holidays, and we saw that Kyle had posted a bunch of Christmas photos with Amanda not in any of those photos. And Amanda did pop up in the comments saying, "Where's Amanda?" But we do know that Kyle and Amanda typically do not spend the holidays together because their families live in different places. Like Amanda's family lives in New Jersey. I think that Kyle's family lives in Vermont. So they typically do not spend the holidays together. But in terms of where they wanted to spend their lives long term, they did know that they didn't want to live in an apartment forever. They wanted to be close to the city, but they wanted to truly be in New Jersey so that they could have some outdoor space and be really close to her parents. Amanda has said, "My dad's dying for grandkids. My mom is so good with children. So when we have kids, New Jersey it is," she said. "They would be all over all the time helping. We go over to my parents' house and Kyle's getting hors d'oeuvres and Aperol spritzes just like handed to him. And I'm like, you don't want to live near my parents?" Now, when it comes to how Amanda's parents feel about Kyle, Amanda has said, "My parents have love for Kyle since the day they met him. Given Kyle's cheating, they're here tonight to support me, but not necessarily to support our relationship," she has said in an episode. During a February 2021 appearance on Watch What Happens Live, Amanda was asked to rate her parents' approval of Kyle, and she said they would probably give a solid 8.5. And again, fair enough, right? I mean, like, you would think that her parents would give him probably like a 1 or a 2, given the fact that he cheated on her. And her dad was like, "What the hell are you doing with this guy?" Some other little factoids about Kyle and Amanda is that she is 9 years younger, that they dated for 3 years prior to moving in together, and that she was the one who initiated this conversation because in summer 2018, her lease was actually coming up, but Kyle wasn't ready to move in yet. He was still in a good spot with his roommate, so he sort of let things fall. And then the next year, he was so all in, and he was the one looking for places and trying to figure that all out. But Amanda and Kyle were each other's first in terms of living together. So, in terms of their separation, they made their official separation statement on January the 19th, which states, after much reflection, we have mutually and amicably decided to part ways as a couple. We share this with a heavy heart and kindly ask for your grace and support while we focus on personal growth and healing. It feels ironic to ask for privacy during this time since we've always tried to be open and honest about our relationship, but your kindness and respect will go a long way as we try to navigate our next chapter, Amanda and Kyle. So, like I said, that was on January the 19th. This was via Instagram stories. And we know that they had been living together at least prior to BravoCon. Amanda admitted this on Watch What Happens Live. She said October, November, and definitely right before BravoCon. Hearing the internet ride for her divorce did end up getting in her head over the years because it was weird to always hear people say, like, you should leave him, you should leave him. It would make her question whether she actually should or not. She also finds it kind of sad that people were like, and the sky is blue when they decided to announce their separation and that they weren't meant to be together. But at the same time, she said that she believes that she will be the first one to start dating between her and Kyle. And she has also said that she would never date a cast member seriously. And this was said on Watch What Happens Live and the Trading Spaces podcast. We know both of those things did not end up becoming true within a matter of weeks, but that was the end of Kyle and Amanda. Now, ever since their relationship has ended, they said that they have been in a pretty good place and talk multiple times a week. But since the West and Amanda stuff have become, very prevalent in the public sphere, which we will talk about later, Kyle has said that Amanda has really been struggling with her mental health. He said that he has been trying to talk to her. But Jesse Solomon said on Watch What Happens Live that he is starting to get mad because of the way he's seeing Amanda and West out there in the public eye, seeing them make out at a baseball game and things like that are really just starting to piss him off. So as of right now, they're still in like an okay place, but I wonder what this will mean going forward for their separation. They haven't officially filed for divorce yet. I wonder if that's going to be coming up anytime in the near future. And a lot of people were wondering if they ever may get back together, but ever since this West and Amanda thing has happened, I would say absolutely, definitely not. A lot of people also think that Kyle is jealous and that he's really upset about West and Amanda in terms of them getting together in like a jealousy capacity. I actually don't think that he feels that way about Amanda anymore. I feel like he is over it in that regard. I mean, they do say that people are over their relationships for at least a year before they ended. And I feel like that was the situation for both of them because they were so checked out. But, we are still waiting to see what happens with the rest of their relationship because, as I said, they have only filed for separation and not for divorce. And as of now, they are on okay terms, but we'll see how that progresses as divorce progresses because we always know that divorce brings out basically the worst in people. Now, we do know that post-separation announcement, Amanda did an article with Marie Claire called I'm Amanda fucking Batula, the Summer House star on separating and starting over. So I read you guys this article for the podcast maybe a couple of months back, and this is when we were super supportive of Amanda. We were like, we were all rooting for you. We want you to do amazing things. Go have sex with whoever you want. But now things have obviously changed. So I'm going to read this article again, and then we are going to chat about it with the information that we know now. When I take the Ludwell Hotel elevator to the penthouse suite to meet Amanda Batula, it's been 1 month down to the day since announcing her divorce from Summer House co-star Kyle Cook. Batula is wearing a tan suede duster jacket and matching micro shorts, but swaps her photo shoot ready heels for her brown Ugg slippers, half glamorous, half the comfy bedbug viewers know and love from the reality show set in a Hampton share house. She gives me a tight hug and joins me on the beige buccal couch. It's a loaded question, but I have to ask anyway. How are you, Amanda? Honestly, I feel like I'm on cloud nine. Unstoppable, she tells me. The past 2 weeks, I've never been happier. Now think about this. The past 2 weeks, which is the period of time that her and West probably became serious, which is, the past 2 weeks since she has announced her separation, which is on January 19th, and she was sleeping with West on at least February the 8th, that 2 weeks being the happiest time of her life, I think is really telling. So it goes on to say the couple separation is a Richter scale shakeup in the Bravo universe. Cook 43 and Batula 34 started dating in Summer House's first season and were engaged by the end of season 3. After multiple postponements due to the COVID pandemic, they married on September 25th, 2021 in Batula's parents' backyard. But the breakup isn't exactly surprising to those who have followed the Kaimanda roller coaster for the past 10 years. Cook is the founder of the alcoholic beverage brand Loverboy, and he has a new side gig as a DJ playing Unz Unz EDM on college campuses and in Connecticut casinos. He's boisterous, emotional, and considered Peter Pan chapter president of Summer House. Batula is his foil in every way. The creative director and graphic designer who joined Loverboy full-time in 2019, but stepped back in 2025, is understated, sardonic, and a professional bedrotter. In almost every episode, viewers watch Batula fall asleep by 11 p.m., while Cook bar hops around the Hamptons until the parties died down. Rumors of Cook cheating, some confirmed, others unsubstantiated, occasionally followed by him home and becoming unfortunate, uncomfortable plot points between the two navigated on screen. It makes sense then why Bravo heads are drawing parallels between Batula and Ariana Madix, the Vanderpump Rules star, whose long-term boyfriend Tom Sandoval had an affair with their friend and fellow cast member Raquel Leviss. Post-Sandoval, Madix's profile exploded. She played Chicago's Roxy Hart on Broadway, placed third on Dancing with the Stars season 32, and currently hosts Love Island on Peacock. But Tula doesn't see it. Everyone wants this big Ariana Madix moment for women who go through a breakup. But her situation was so different and so awful, says the New Jersey native. There's really no comparison. Kyle and I are good. Even still, the Summer House star is receiving Maddox-level mountains of support. Every time she posts on Instagram, the comment section turned into a prayer circle of positivity. Girl who is going to be okay. And we love seeing you win from fans. Beautiful and strong, and heart emojis from Real Housewives Dorinda Medley and Bronwyn Newport. She's feeling the love in her inner circle, too. She has a steadfast group of girlfriends, including fellow Summer House castmates Sierra Miller, Paige DeSorbo, and Lindsay Hubbard. Not anymore. Sending near constant, I love you, I'm proud of you texts. I'm a good picker when it comes to girlfriends, Batula jokes. I mean, yeah, you're a good picker, but you're not good at keeping. Sorry, that's my insertion. I ask about her father, Frank Batula, and fan favorite Summer House side character who initially rejected Cook's request for a marital blessing. My dad's not out there celebrating like everyone thinks he is, but he did send me flowers for Valentine's Day and a card that said Happy Independence Day. Batula's feeling happy in her independence. I'm usually a very codependent person. Okay, that's really interesting, because she says, but in the past few months, maybe even longer, I feel really comfortable doing things on my own. She's living alone for the first time in a new Manhattan apartment, too. I don't have a couch yet, so the dogs and I spend most of our time in bed, which is what we would be doing anyways. So it's really interesting that she considers herself a codependent person, because that explains a lot of why she may have felt so drawn and compelled to Wes, because she's not used to being alone. While she's trying to do the alone thing, maybe it really freaked her out. And that's why she just kind of pushed herself into somebody that was inappropriate for her to be with, because she was so afraid of being alone. The article continues, as we continue our chat, Batula tells me about her separation from Cook, the power of Prozac, and while she'll never be ashamed of smoking weed and what's next for her. This isn't a new chapter, it's a whole new book, as she puts it. Okay, they asked the question, okay, deep breath. Can you tell me the detailed timeline of the separation? Amanda says, I moved out in November. We were separated but agreed not to see other people. The plan was to date each other, work on our relationship, and take some space. But that space made us realize, well, maybe we want more space and the separation should be permanent. There's been a lot of speculation that we broke up before Summer House season 10 started filming, that we've been separated for months, blah, blah, blah. But honest to God, we came to the decision to divorce a few days before we posted the announcement on Instagram on January 19th, 2026. We were FaceTime talking about us, and I wanted to put out a statement about our relationship, and that's when we decided to officially separate. We were also on FaceTime, and when we both posted our statements a few days later. It was a sad moment, but also a relief, and I'm really happy we did it together. Okay, so I still don't believe this timeline, because, I mean, even Mia Alaro from Southern Hospitality said that she went on a date with Wes in September, and that in November at BravoCon, Amanda told her that she and Wes were pre-gaming before the date alone. So I mean, there are just so many instances of them spending time alone together where it just prior to January, that doesn't really make sense. I mean, think about Kyle saying in one of the first episodes of season 10, he said to Wes, she spent more time with you in the last 6 months than she spent with me, which, just really shows how much time she's actually spending with Wes, which leads me to believe that when she says that they decided to just date each other, I don't really believe her. I believe that she was fully with West for several months prior to her separation announcement from Kyle. Then they asked, tell me more about what ultimately led to the decision to divorce. Amanda said, I could see what other people saw in us, why they didn't think we should be together. We both knew what needed to be done, but neither of us wanted to pull the trigger. It was really heavy. We were both struggling with the decision to call it quits, and that's where I faded away and lost myself a bit. But it just got to a point where I knew I had given the relationship everything I had, and there was no fight left in me. We looked at each other like, this isn't going to go anywhere. They asked the question on Summer House, you've mentioned feeling hidden in Kyle's shadow. Now that you're out of the relationship, do you feel a stronger sense of identity? And Amanda said, for years, I was a very insecure, quiet person. Kyle lights up the room that he walks in. He's the life of the party. That's why I fell in love with him. But it was easy to get lost behind that. He needed to be social. His need to be social took over, and it made me nervous and lack a lot of confidence. That Amanda feels like a different person compared to who I'm becoming right now. Making the decision to separate was, yes, a weight lifted, but between my antidepressants, going off birth control, being in my 30s, every day I'm feeling more and more like myself and like a better person. Well, you're not becoming a better person. You're becoming a worse person because you went off with somebody that your friend used to have a relationship with. So all the things that you feel like has lifted a weight for you, antidepressants, going on birth control, being in your 30s, has actually made you a worse person. So the confidence that you currently have is not working in your favor. Sorry, those are my thoughts. She says, I see the world differently. I have a different confidence now and give a lot of credit to the strong, powerful women who have been on the show with me for that. Witnessing them stand in their power, they've been great role models. Also, having my high school and college friends remind me of who I am, shaking me awake, saying, you can be your own person, that has definitely given me the boost to be like, you know what, they're right. I am an individual. Then they ask the question, you've been very open about your mental health and struggles with depression. Did your mental health journey contribute to the separation in any way? Amanda says, yes and no. I was in such a low place. And when you're struggling like that, you don't want to do anything for yourself or anyone else. I would sit on the couch, spiral about the relationship, work, travel, and absolutely shut down. There was no world where I was capable of making decisions to help myself. When you're able to turn off the voices and nonsense in your head, it's so much easier to see things for what they are. The antidepressants opened my eyes and I saw things differently. I knew more of what I was and wasn't able to tolerate, what I deserved and what I didn't, and the respect I need. But just because I started taking medication didn't make me get a divorce. It just made me feel like me again. And I was able to see the relationship for what it was, recognizing that it wasn't working and that neither of us were happy. And then the interviewer says, totally. I'm on Prozac too, and it does kind of help mute the noise so you can be more objective when looking at your life. Plus, it gets easier to get out of bed in the morning. And Amanda says, can I tell you, Kyle's biggest beef with me for so long was that he'd have to be my alarm and wake me up. I wake up before my alarm every single day now. I'm up between 7 to 8 just staring at the ceiling. I'm a morning person now, which is crazy. That feels really good. Mind you, I don't get out of bed. I just lay there like a rock on my phone or watching a show. I haven't changed that much. I'm just awake now. The interviewer says, I want to discuss the internet's reaction to your relationship. For years, fans have been rooting for your breakup for you to leave Kyle. How did that factor into your decision? Amanda says, it used to make me angry. Then it made me sad, then confused. It's part of why it took me longer than it should have to call it quits because I needed to feel 100% secure in my decision and absolutely certain it was mine and mine alone, that it wasn't coming from production, my friends, my family, or the audience. Maybe I would have left sooner if I hadn't have ignored it all, but it was so harder to filter. But it was so hard to filter out. It was like one of those comments calling you ugly. There were thousands of comments over the years. Why are these two together? I also understood where people were coming from. They're watching the show and seeing us argue and not get along. But we had a whole relationship outside of filming and we were working on things throughout, going to therapy and having conversations. There was also 3 seasons of us living together where things were good. It's unfortunate because viewers didn't get to see all those little moments of us having fun because when we were filming, the bigger story often was that we were fighting. But in those tiny moments, it was very obvious why we were together. Our housemates saw it and understood why we were in love. The question asks, the online commentary has ramped up since the divorce announcement, and with season 10 airing now, I see comments calling Kyle's behavior towards you toxic and emotionally abusive. How are you dealing with that? It's horrible and so not helpful. We've already split up. It's done. I don't care how awful a person you think Kyle was or how terribly you feel he treated me. To attack him when he's also going through the separation while he's also dealing with the pain and the fallout of the relationship, don't meet a man when he's down. We still love each other very much. It was a huge fear of mine when we separated that he was going to get this treatment. It also stopped me from calling it quits on our relationship earlier because I don't want people to attack, hurt, or villainize him. He's not a bad person. We are two people who couldn't make it work. It's unfortunate, but he doesn't deserve the hate he's getting. Let me hate that man. He doesn't need the entire internet doing it. It's funny because this is how their separation initially started off, but ever since the West and Amanda thing, now everybody hates her, everybody's fighting for Kyle, and everybody is trying to purchase Loverboy merch and Loverboy products. So I really think that the tide has sort of shifted and everybody's like kind of poor Kyle in a sense. The question asks, it's kind of crazy how I can call my family crazy. I've lived the experience. I have the authority, but you can't call them crazy. And Amanda says, exactly. I can tell Kyle to shut the fuck up. Sierra, Paige, and Lindsay can. If you've lived with us in the house, you can tell Kyle whatever you want. Nobody else can. If you want to support me, then just support me. You don't have to also tear him down. I have also given so much love for Kyle, and I don't want to not have him in my life. It doesn't matter how much hate he's getting or how much positivity I'm getting, because at the end of the day, it only matters that we're there for each other. Like with Paige and Craig, I know Paige really wanted them to remain on good terms, and it's really upsetting that it couldn't happen. That's why Kyle and I are both going above and beyond to make sure that people know that we're on the same team. You might be choosing sides, but even we don't have sides. We're still a unit here. Try to respect that, people. Then the question asks, I want to rewind back to where your head was at going into season 10. What was your headspace like when the cameras went back up? Amanda says, you can definitely tell I was at my wit's end with Kyle. There was a lot that happened between us that spring, too, with him staying at a fan's house. We didn't get into the house on good terms, and I clearly was not holding back at all. Watching it back, I feel really bad. You can tell how furious I was, how fed up, and how frustrated I was with that relationship. It pains me to watch myself talk to and treat Kyle that way. That's not who I am, and seeing myself do that is a reminder of how hard of a time I was going through. Sometimes I find myself thinking about all the good times that we had and getting sad, and then Tuesday night comes around, I watch an episode and I'm like, oh, that's right. That's why we're at where we're at right now. I will say that Kyle and I didn't fight the whole summer. Every episode will not be us mad at each other. It gets better before it gets worse. This is one of my favorite summers we've had at the house. It was a really good group of people living it. Nothing felt performative. It's raw and authentic, the honest mess we are. That is really interesting for her to say that this is one of the favorite summers that she's had. How is that possible? This was the most detrimental summer for her in her relationship with her husband. Even if she was feeling so over it, it was still really awkward and sad to watch. And you would think that this would be one of her hardest summers. But for her to say it's been a really good group of people, nothing felt performative, it's all been raw, authentic, it's been the best summer. I think that has a lot to do with Wes, not just how much he was supporting her, but also in the way that she felt like, I think she started to feel excited about somebody again. The interviewer says, it's interesting to hear you say this is one of your favorite summers, considering months later, you and Kyle started the divorce process. Amanda says, I think I knew the fallout with Kyle was inevitable. So I put our relationship aside and focused on my friendships in the house, which is what she's saying, right? Which is what we end up seeing. She's focusing completely on Wes and not on Kyle. I could have spent the whole summer spiraling with him, but I chose to find my own happiness on the weekends with people who love and support me. Like Wes, does he love and support you? And that's why you spent your whole summer with him? It would have been a very difficult summer to get through without Sierra. She is one of the kindest, most loving, loyal friends I've ever had. She sends me texts out of the blue reminding me how strong, powerful, smart, and kind I am. I don't think she even realizes how much I need those texts. It also meant so much to me how supportive West Wilson has been throughout the season, sometimes in ways I wasn't even aware of when filming. It's not performative. It's just really authentic to who West is. He checks Kyle and puts him in his place, and you'll continue to see him be there for me throughout the season. So this is really interesting to hear her say this. It sounds like she really does value Sierra's friendship. She values the friendship that they have outside of filming. And so it is, again, so wild that she was willing to do this to someone where she knew this was going to destroy the friendship that she had with Sierra. That's how important it was for her to be with West Wilson, to completely destroy her relationship with Sierra, knowing that this would be the fallout. And then for her to say, like, West was so incredibly supportive this season, we definitely saw that. But I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were in a relationship, right? They were in love with each other. They were supporting each other. And that's why we see West kind of coming for Kyle in Amanda's defense in a way that he never did for Sierra, because I think he is so in love with Amanda. The interviewer says, I want to talk about the fight at the Apology Dune. Hearing Kyle say you lack curiosity, drive, personality, what was it like reliving that and watching that scene as a viewer? And Amanda said, God, that was really tough. I definitely disassociated in that moment. You can see me shut down and go into my own world. I didn't even know he said half of those things because I couldn't hear him. No personality. A bitch has personality, okay? I wouldn't be on TV if I didn't. I mean, that's not necessarily true. You were only there as Kyle's wife, but okay. A lot of people checked in on me after the episode. Kyle even texted me after and said it was a rough watch. The frustration and animosity outshined the love we had, and it even became volatile. We could not see eye to eye or understand one another. The hatred came out. It was really difficult to relive, but it's a good reminder for both of us that we made the right decision to break up. The interviewer says, in that fight, you also mentioned the cheating rumors that you received in your DMs. Have more rumors come out since your separation announcement? Amanda said, I do fear that more people may start coming out of the woodwork. I've already seen posts about him cheating and people confirming certain things, which doesn't make me feel great, but I can't say I didn't expect it given all the rumors I've heard. Have any of the rumors been confirmed? The interviewer says. They've never liked confirmations. It's always like, my friend saw this, or I heard from so and so. It's never the person themselves. Normally, I'd send that stuff to Kyle, but it doesn't bother me anymore. I see it and there's no pit in my stomach. My heart doesn't sink. I'm just like, okay, well, good thing we called it. The interviewer says, I imagine some of these rumors are like months and years old. Amanda says, that part's annoying. Like, how am I finding out about new things that happened years ago? Where are my girls? Hello? Do people have photos and no one shared anything? He's been wildly protected. And that is true. There have been so many rumors over the years. How has there never been a single photo of him kissing someone? Even the girl who messaged me and said, like, yeah, I was out and saw him making out with someone. Why did nobody grab a photo, right? The interviewer says, protected by who? The Bravoverse, a boys club? Amanda says, no, not a boys club. Kyle's a good looking man. And if you're out drunk and you make out with him, maybe you tell your friends and share photos with them, but your friends aren't going to blow up your spot. So I get it. It stays a secret. People also love being around him. He's the life of the party, is so much fun, and brings energy into every space. People don't want to jeopardize that either. But you guys could have told me privately or given me a heads up or come to me with something concrete. I want receipts, proof, timeline, screenshots, all of it. Amanda says, I'm just living my life now. If more shit comes out, it's just another reminder of why we are where we are. And if people see him out with a girl, don't DM me because I don't need to know. Let him make out in peace. The interviewer says, I want to pivot to Kyle bringing up that you smoke weed this season. As a viewer, it seems like a familiar defensive pattern. He did it with Carl Radke's drug use, and then he did it with you. Amanda says, when Kyle brought it up on camera, it didn't have the same effect as when he outed Carl because I've always been very open about smoking weed. I've never been ashamed of it or tried to hide it. I smoke weed every night at the house on camera, but we have a little balcony outside of the primary bedroom where I go out to smoke my little joint. Bravo just doesn't air those scenes. There are also clips with my little weed pen next to my Lafufu on the nightstand. Also, we have a THC drink called Flower Boy, which Kyle consumes himself. So what the hell is the problem? He just doesn't like that I smoke it. But let me do what I want with my body. You're destroying your liver. I'm destroying my lungs. We'll both die happy. The interviewer says, it did seem like he was trying to weaponize it against you. Amanda said, he absolutely was. He was trying to shame me, make me seem like a bad person since I get high every night before I go to sleep. Some people get high all day. Some people go to work and walk around high. I'm not a social high. I need to be on the couch in my own space before bed. It doesn't affect my lifestyle in any way. That's why it was so crazy for him to say that. He really thought he had something on me there. Amanda, or the interviewer says, was your recent TikTok vaping into the camera with Olivia Dean's Be My Boyfriend playing, you responding to when the episode aired? And Amanda said, yeah, I've been taking little jabs on social media to take ownership and say I'm not going to be shamed for smoking weed. It's legal. I'm not doing anything crazy. I can do whatever, whenever the fuck I want, as the great Olivia Dean said herself. The interviewer said, do you have any interest in going into the weed business? I see a lot of jokes online about you starting a weed line. Amanda says, I don't want to be the stoner girl and have it be my whole image, but I definitely want to explore more of the weed space. I will not be starting a business on my own. I watched someone very close to me start one, and it's a lot of hard work. But I would love to come onto an existing brand and do my own line within it, whether it's my own strain, joints, papers, grinders, bongs, or smoking accessories. The interviewer says, this is a perfect segue into your career. We've talked about sacrificing your professional ambitions for Kyle's and wanting to carve out your own path separate from his. Now that you've separated, what do you want to see for yourself in your career? And Amanda says, I'm leaning into content creation and the influencer thing, but I really want to get my hands on a brand and submerge myself. I'd love to come on as a guest creative director and work with the on-staff team to create something together. So it's not just me promoting X, Y, and Z. Similar to my swim collab with South Moon Under, where it's a long-term partnership where we're able to create together. That's what fills my cup. Anything I'm passionate about, I'm willing to get my hands on. Fashion, jewelry, fragrance, pet products, bedding. The interviewer says, your relationship aside, we've seen you grow up on the show. If 25-year-old Amanda from season one was sitting right here, what advice would you have for her? Amanda says, I would tell her the same thing that Sierra and Paige told me later in life. You are so much more than just your relationship with Kyle. You are Amanda fucking Batula. You shouldn't feel insecure. You have so much going for you. You are loved by so many people. Also good on Prozac now. It's just really interesting because ever since she's become more confident and been less insecure, she has been caring less about what people think, which is a good thing, but not caring about what the people who matter in her life think and not making decisions congruent with the people that are in her life and have been there for her. That's the fucked up part. The interviewer says, what about advice for people in relationships having issues with compatibility? Amanda says, if you're sitting here hoping they can be a different person, you need to walk away. That's the biggest pill to swallow. Not to fall in love with someone's potential, but to love and accept them for who they are. People keep telling me that I knew who I married, that Kyle has always been this way. But when you're younger and you meet someone out at a club, you don't expect them to constantly be clubbing throughout your entire relationship. You expect people to mature, not to change, but to grow up. And with growth comes change. But they may never change, and sometimes love is not enough. What about prenups? Everyone needs a prenup. It doesn't matter if you make millions of dollars or how in love you are. It's like health insurance. You get it to protect yourself if something happens. Prenups are also to avoid being responsible for someone else's debt. Kyle has this lover boy debt from a business loan he took out before we got married, and everybody's freaking out about it. If the business can't pay it back, then it's Kyle's responsibility. To my knowledge and his understanding, the debt doesn't involve me in any way, but a prenup would have protected me 100% from it. The interviewer says, you and Kyle are co-dog parents. You work together on Summer House and In the City, which airs later this year. What do you hope for in your future relationship? Amanda says, I like being around him and in his space. I just never like being responsible for him. Being able to enjoy each other's company and then go home whenever I want without worrying about him is going to change our whole relationship. It's been so much easier for us to just be friends again. Like, let me host an event and have Kyle DJ it. That's what I want from our friendship, to see each other, hug, smile, and ask each other how we are doing in life. I hope I meet his next girlfriend. I'll give her a talking to. And then, is that Megan King Edmonds? I mean, we saw him kissing Megan King Edmonds a couple of weeks ago at Burger King. So I wonder if she'll be giving Megan King Edmonds a talking to. The interviewer says, enough about Kyle. Are you dating? And Amanda says, I am manifesting a boyfriend, but just a boyfriend. No one who's looking for anything serious. Oh, well, you found exactly that. You manifested someone who is not looking for anything serious. His name is Wes Wilson. And she says, I want to have fun with somebody who is my age or younger. Since I've always dated older. For now, while I heal, I just want to flirt and make out, to be taken on dates and just enjoy being hot and happy. I'll find a husband later down the road, or maybe not. So when we've read that the first time, we thought, good for you. You go, girl. We want you to be able to find a husband later, do your thing, go out with younger guys, have sex, go on dates, do whatever. But now hearing her say this with the information in mind that she was fucking West this whole time, it really takes it to like a different level to be able to say, like, I just want to have fun with someone my age or younger. I just want to heal. I just want to flirt and make out. That is what you're doing potentially with West, but you're not thinking about the consequences of the other people in your life when you're doing that, which is really the most fucked up part. The interviewer says, what about your future? What do you want for this new era, Amanda? And Amanda says, when I first thought about leaving Kyle, I was so scared about starting over and having to find someone again. I'm 34. I'm not getting younger. Women have an unfortunate timeline when it comes to having children, and that freaked me out. But I think because of the medication and being in the headspace that I am, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm in a really good place with my mental health. I'm not ready to get pregnant right now anyway. I got another swimsuit shoot coming up, so I can't be having any buns in the oven. Fortunately, I can freeze my eggs, and there are many things I can do, hopefully, to give myself a shot at having kids later. I'm not trying to do any of that math, like if I have a baby by 40, then I'll be 60 when they're in college, or plan too much for the future. Then the interviewer says, what I'm hearing is that you're just open in general, open to change, to wherever life takes you. And Amanda says, I used to be so afraid of change. In my home growing up, we had these cast iron railings that my parents wanted to replace with beautiful solid ones. I literally handcuffed myself to the cast iron railings and cried when the carpenter came to remove them because I did not want them to change anything. This is the first time I'm looking forward to change and seeing it as a really good thing. What's meant for me will always find me. Things will always happen when they're supposed to. I'm living in the moment, which is something I don't think I've done in a while. We're keeping our heads above water. We're binge watching TV. We're working. We're taking our Prozac, smoking our weed, and cuddling our dogs. All right. That's the end of the article. And I feel like, yeah, it just speaks a lot differently now that we know what we know. We'll obviously get to the Amanda and West chapter later on. But again, I think that her leaving Kyle, her having this sense of self-confidence, her just feeling so much more comfortable with change is what led her into this position with West. But again, I think that her having this confidence in doing whatever she wants, having the confidence from the audience, having the confidence from her friends to go out there and live her best life, I think she ended up taking that in the wrong way and ended up, you know, engaging in a relationship with a friend that was inappropriate. And in her mind, she's convincing herself it's okay to do these things because everyone told me, go out there, be yourself, don't give a fuck about what everybody else is saying, only worry about you. And in doing that, she has become one of the most selfish people alive. And it just shows that she doesn't have the capacity to be a good friend if she is making decisions based on only her own self-serving needs, right? So I do wonder what happened with this group of nine, which then became a group of seven. I wonder about her high school friends. I wonder about her college friends. I mean, even in the leaked audio footage, somebody asks her about her best friend Katie, who she's been best friends with since third grade, and asks her, well, how would you feel if Katie got together with Kyle? And she's like, well, Katie would never do that because we've been best friends since the third grade. But that doesn't really change your relationship with Sierra. You've been friends with Sierra for like 5 years, right? So what's the difference in terms of the lengths of the friendships that you've had? I think that she's just trying to convince herself that all of the decisions that she's making are correct because she's living in this sort of selfish whirlwind where everyone told her, go ahead, be selfish, do you, Amanda. Chapter 3, Amanda and Lindsay. Now, Amanda Patula and Lindsay Hubbard have always had a contentious friendship. They have known each other for basically as long as Kyle and Amanda have known each other for 10 years, and that's how they met. Amanda met Lindsay through Kyle. And basically, Amanda didn't feel included basically all the way back to her first summer because she felt like the girls in the summer house were a very cliquey friend group that they didn't want to include her in. Now, her issues with Lindsay stem all the way back to the season 2 reunion, where Lindsay was leaving her out a lot and wouldn't text her to hang out. At the reunion, all of the girls, including the Workus twins, were really coming at Amanda. Amanda said at the reunion that she's the one who texts Lindsay and saying, like, what do I need to do to like make up with you? And like nothing was basically the same after that. The girls say that, you know, Amanda doesn't reach out to them either. And she says that she has reached out to them. And Lindsay's like, listen, Amanda, you play the victim a lot. You only reach out to us when Kyle is out of town. You act like everyone is against you. You act like everyone is trying to hurt you. And that's really not the situation, which is sort of interesting because Lindsay will also sort of play the victim at times. But it's very clear in this season that Amanda is feeling super left out by these girls, and we're not really sure at this point in time as to why. Now, during the entire season 2, Kyle and Amanda were fighting like crazy, and they were really bringing everyone else into their drama, which is why it was becoming an issue for everyone else. If you look at the current season and you look at Dara and KJ, they have literally established a relationship without making it everybody else's problem. They don't get in fights in front of everyone else. They don't involve other people in their relationship. And that's sort of what the girls had wanted when it came to Kyle and Amanda. But instead, they were fighting in front of everyone and making it everybody else's problem. So one of the other things that happened that we find out at that reunion is that Danielle and Lindsay unfollowed Amanda on Instagram and cut her out of a photo that she was in and then posted it. So in the years that followed, when Amanda was asked if she ever wanted to fix her relationship with Lindsay, she said, no, because why would I want to fight for a friendship like that? Somebody who doesn't want me in their life. Lindsay has also said that Amanda is somebody who cannot be trusted with a secret. On Watch What Happens Live, Lindsay recently said regarding Danielle saying many seasons back that Amanda wasn't trustworthy, that Danielle has sort of like a witchy intuition, which is typically right, but it has bad delivery. So we'll remember many seasons back, it was the season, I believe, with Jules, where they're playing some sort of game and Danielle says that Amanda's the least trustworthy and she runs off crying, right? And we're sitting there wondering, where did this come from? And Lindsay's telling us that basically this is true. And, you know, she's not trustworthy, can't be trusted with a secret. And this is something that we heard her say way back on the season 2 reunion. So her other issues with Lindsay are also the second cheating scandal that was brought up by Lindsay. Now, we were told that this rumor was not true, but she was hurt by Lindsay for bringing it up on camera 4 months after it allegedly happened. And she said at one of the reunions where she looked really upset at the idea that Lindsay had done this to her, she said that she would have told Lindsay off camera, not embarrassed her like that, and then they would have had to have found a way to bring it up on camera. Now, Kyle said that he didn't know that girl. The girl said nothing happened. He said he hadn't even been to Black Lodge, which was the event space that this alleged makeout happened. But regardless, this is one of the major issues between Lindsay and Amanda. And lastly, Lindsay has said, or sorry, that Amanda has said that Lindsay is mean to fans. I don't know if this is necessarily true. I know that my friend Julia had a bad interaction with her at BravoCon. I didn't get the opportunity to meet Lindsay at BravoCon, but I met her at a Hey You Social event. She was very nice, exactly like herself. I was there as a fan and she was perfectly nice to me. So I don't know if this is something that Amanda felt that she saw Lindsay actually do in person, or that Lindsay had maybe course corrected her behavior after she heard Amanda say this. Chapter 4, Amanda and Hannah. Now, we know that Amanda Batula and Hannah Berner are no longer friends, and we know that this has a lot to do with Kyle Cook. Now, we did address the Amanda and Hannah of it all when it comes to the Be True Hollywood Story episode that I did on Kyle back before the holidays, but I don't want to be too repetitive, so I'll basically give you the brass tacks when it comes to what happened between Amanda and Hannah, which, like I said, is right back to having to do with Kyle. So basically what happened was in season 5, Kyle gets super angry with Hannah at the beginning of the season, which was their COVID season where they had to stay there for the entire summer because she wasn't taking out the garbage or cleaning up after herself or something like that. Now, apparently, prior to this, Hannah had done a paid ad for Truly and also did the Call Her Daddy podcast and was talking shit about Kyle. So he went into the summer pissed at her anyways. And this obviously led to a bunch of contention between Amanda and Hannah because Hannah was out there talking shit about Amanda's relationship, basically, right? So on the season, Hannah and Kyle get in this big argument at the dinner table where she says something like, you can talk to Amanda like that, but you can't talk to me like that. And Amanda ends up throwing a glass at her. Now, you can take this one of two ways. A lot of people were like, yeah, I would have thrown a glass at her too. And some people were like, oh my God, I can't believe that she did that. This incident ended up leading to Kyle and Hannah having a sit down where she says something like, it's sort of like, you're like my dad telling me all the things I've done wrong. And Kyle says, why am I even in the same breath as your dad? And then Hannah just kind of like freaks out and loses it out of nowhere and says, never mention my dad again, ever. Never talk about my family, which was not what Kyle was doing, right? And it just showed that Hannah was just completely losing it that summer. So Kyle ends up disinviting Hannah from his wedding to Amanda. Amanda ends up asking Paige to be a bridesmaid in the wedding, and you can tell how incredibly jealous Hannah is over this. Hannah then ends up starting to date a guy named Des, who she is now married to, and she was talking to him all summer that summer and even invited him to the house. So on the occasion that he came to the house, Hannah was so pissed with Kyle and Amanda for basically the demise of their friendship that she and Des had sex all over Kyle and Amanda's bathroom, which is so incredibly gross. What we also find out is that when Hannah got engaged, Amanda ended up finding out through a People exclusive and not through Hannah. Apparently, Amanda had called Hannah when she was at the DMV. Hannah said that she would call her back, but then didn't call her back, and then said in press that Kyle was the only one not to congratulate her. And Kyle was like, you didn't tell us. We have to find out through the press. So 3 days later, Paige texted her that Kyle was going around saying that Hannah is manipulative and not a good friend, and got mad at Paige for not telling Amanda that Hannah was engaged. But at the season 5 reunion, Hannah says that the reason that she didn't call Amanda back because she heard that Kyle was talking shit about her from Paige. But again, that was 3 days later, right? We don't have a real sense of why she didn't call Amanda back immediately because it was much later on that Kyle then went ahead and was talking shit about her. Now, Hannah feels like this whole beef between her and Kyle is really like an OG territorial thing and is really about egos. She says that he told her that she wouldn't have anything if she didn't have him. Now, Kyle does not think that this is about power struggles or for who is like the top alpha, but instead he believes that Hannah treated Amanda poorly and talked negatively about their relationship, which made it really difficult for her. So because of this, beef, this basically led to the end of the relationship between Amanda and Hannah. And in recent press over the years, Amanda has been asked if she's open to rekindling things with Hannah, and she has always said yes. She said that Hannah didn't reach out to her when she and Kyle separated, but that's not something that she expected. But she wanted to be able to support Giggly Squad and to be able to go to Giggly Squad events. We also heard Paige express that this is something that has caused a lot of contention for her because if she were to get married, she wouldn't be able to have a bridal shower because how would she have Amanda and what's her name, and Hannah in the same room. Now we know Paige is no longer friends with Amanda, given the whole West debacle, so this is no longer an issue, but that's where the whole Amanda and Hannah beef came from. It all came from her initial contention with Kyle and Amanda needing to stand up for her man. Chapter 5, Amanda and Jules. In season 4 of Summer House, Hannah brought on a girl named Jules Daoud, and the crew was pretty mean to Jules throughout the entire season. The poor girl ended up feeling so lonely that she ended up having sex with Craig Conover that season because none of the other people would even talk to her. I'm really ashamed of the girls during this season because I really have no idea why they were treating Jules in this capacity. They really treated her as like an outsider, like she wasn't even there. And it was really just kind of mean girl behavior that I really did not like coming out of these girls. Now, one particular incident when it comes to Jules and Amanda particularly struck out for me. So back in season 4, the girls were playing a game. It was sort of like a truth or dare, or like a question game. And at the time, Jules was hooking up with this guy, Jordan, who had been on the show the previous season and had made appearances in season 4. Most of the cast don't like Jordan because he is a liar, and they were very confused by him. But Jules had originally been connected with the cast through Jordan because they had hooked up previously. Then she moved to New York. Jordan knew Hannah through work, and that's how this all came to be. But because the cast didn't like Jordan, they decided to use this as an excuse for not liking Jules. So while the cast, or the girls specifically, are playing like this question game, one of the questions is something like, well, Amanda says something to the effect of like, well, just because Jordan is a liar, does that make you a liar, Jules? Does that make you someone who we can't trust? Which was such a bitchy thing to say. So I'm sorry, just because Jules is dating a guy who you guys don't like and you guys think is a liar, that makes Jules a liar? That's like saying every time you date someone who is told a lie, that makes you by facto a liar as well. Like, that is so absolutely bizarre. And then Jules clapped back at Amanda with a very good clapback and said, well, didn't your husband cheat on you? Right? Like, doesn't that make your husband a liar and a cheater? Does that make you a liar and a cheater, Amanda? I mean, like, Jesus Christ, right? So it was very weird to see Amanda act in such a mean girl capacity, despite the fact that people do believe her to be a mean girl. I haven't seen her acted in such an outward capacity towards someone to date, right? I haven't specifically seen her do that to someone on TV, but when it comes to Jules, she was extremely rude and mean to her because she didn't like Jordan. She didn't want Jordan in the house. Carl made a specific, what's the word? Like, he sort of made it his mission to get rid of Jules and Jordan that summer and told them that they couldn't be in the house. And Amanda was right there cheering him on and saying to her, well, you must be a liar because Jordan, a guy who you're hooking up with, who isn't even your boyfriend, is a liar. Well, that just shows that Amanda is not really good at making arguments. Chapter 6, Amanda and West. All right. When it comes to Amanda and West, I actually did not even take notes on this part for this chapter because I felt like I just know the Amanda and West story so well and that it is just so integrally part of my being at this point that I don't even feel like I needed to take detailed notes. But at the same time, I just don't want to be too repetitive when it comes to other episodes that I've done, because I've obviously done a multitude of episodes on West Mandible, Scamanda, West TD, Midwest, whatever else it is that you want to call this situation. But because of that, I feel like, yeah, I just don't want to be too repetitive when it comes to things that I've already talked about. So I feel like for this chapter, we're going to talk about the basics when it comes to Amanda and West. So we know that Amanda and Kyle announced their separation on January 19th, 2026 via Instagram story. We know not exactly when West and Amanda started, but we know that it happened at least by the time of the Super Bowl, which was February the 8th, which was only 10 days later, which is wild. The reason that we know that is because Brianna Chicken Fry, who is friends with this group of people, told Dave Portnoy, who is the owner of Barstool Sports, that Amanda and West were hooking up. And this was back at the time of the Super Bowl. Now, West also did a statement on his podcast. For those of you who know he has a podcast, not a lot of people do. But basically, Amanda made the statement that But basically, Wes made the statement that there was no overlap, there was no crossover, that things got serious in February. And that's when they realized that this was more than it was. But again, January 19th was when Kyle and Amanda announced their separation. So, how did things get serious in February? And when exactly was the hooking up starting? Now, we know that there was this blind item from an account called Crazy Days and Nights back from June 5th, 2025, that said this seasonal reality star is cheating on her spouse. Everybody believed this to be about Amanda because she is the only seasonal reality star, the only person who is married, the only she. And it seemed like she and Wes were sort of playing in our faces with things that they were putting on Instagram at the time. She was posting pictures and things with him that said best day ever, which was from the snow day this year. She was posting things back in June at that time where the cover story, or sorry, the song was called Back to Friends. And it really just seemed like they were playing in our faces because it really seemed like they were making a joke out of some of the online fodder. But then at the same time, was anything actually going on? Because you go back and you watch the season, and it seems like he wants to do everything in his power to defend her and be there for her and be her biggest supporter, while at the same time, her relationship with her husband is completely deteriorating. You see Wes not even be able to stand up for Sierra in that same way that he's able to stand up for Amanda. And it's just really fucked up if you think about it. So here is the statement that they made. This was literally on March 31st. This was the joint statement that Wes and Amanda made. It says, we've seen the growing online speculation. So while this is still very new, we wanted to provide some clarity. It was never our intention to purposefully hide anything. Given the complicated relationship dynamics involved and the scrutiny that comes with being on a reality show, we needed a little space to process things privately before speaking on it. We've shown up for each other as friends over the years, through all the highs and lows, and what's developed recently was the last thing that either of us expected. Our connection grew out of a genuine, long-standing friendship, which made it especially important for us to approach this with care. As our feelings evolved, we wanted to take time to understand exactly what we were feeling. We also recognized that this had an impact beyond just us and never wanted our actions to cause any hurt or to be perceived as careless. We truly appreciate the understanding and respect as we navigate this. And so, again, this was on March the 31st, which was just like not even that long ago. Shortly after this, Amanda and Wes just started being seen together outside at bars, at baseball games. Amanda was seen being said during the baseball game. If you look at her lips, she was saying, like, act like you like me. She was like kind of pulling at his pants to sit down when he was getting up to cheer at the game. So it sort of seems like Naggy Amanda is still, alive and well. And I'm very curious to see what this relationship will hold. But it is just so incredibly wild because of the Sierra of it all, because we know that Sierra and West had a situationship sort of relationship a couple of years back. We know that this is something that Sierra was never really able to get over. We know that Sierra and Amanda are very close friends. And so that's what really puts this situation into such like a disgusting sort of display because, as we've seen throughout the episodes, as we've even seen throughout this episode, we learn how much Sierra and Amanda really are close to each other, how much Sierra has really been there for Amanda. So this really is such a betrayal. Now, we haven't had the reunion air yet, so we don't know if this will come out or not, but it was alleged that Sierra and West were hooking up pretty recently, which does really change the situation. Because if we are literally just talking about a situationship from like 2.5 years ago, okay, maybe we are making it a bigger deal than it is, but we're talking about a situation where these two have never really stopped having feelings for each other and they hooked up recently, which would mean that there might have been crossover with Amanda, which is very gross and weird. But regardless, I mean, the fact that there was no apology to Sierra in this message just shows that Amanda truly is the selfish person that she has proclaimed herself to be. And it was really interesting when I was talking earlier in the Factoids about how she's never had a friendship fallout prior to the show, like prior to Hannah, for example. And now with being on the show, she's capable of having many friendship fallout. So I'm very curious if that is actually true. It doesn't really necessarily make sense. Like I said earlier, if you were a group called the Nine and now there's seven of you, that means two people were cut out. And so it really does show that you do have the capacity to, sort of change your friendships around. And maybe you have had issues with friendships in the past. But it's really interesting to hear her say that she's just sort of never had issues with friends, but then also hear her say that she wants to be liked and she wants people to be afraid of her and all of these things. Um, it just shows that we really don't know Amanda as well as we thought we did. It shows that Sierra probably didn't know Amanda as well as she thought she did because she figured that this is something that a close friend of hers would never, ever, ever do. I mean, this guy, of all of the guys in New York, this is the guy that you choose, right? And even though, and as we know, there is leaked audio footage of the reunion, and I have given you guys a transcript of that and we've gone through that. Despite the fact that Amanda says that you can't help who you like, I really believe that she should have cut this off at the helm and should have been like the second that she realized that she was feeling something for him, she should have stopped spending alone time with him, like point blank, because she knew that this was an important guy to Sierra and she knew that this would have affected her friendship long term with her. So it's interesting to see where this will go. I don't believe it'll go anywhere long term. We know that West has never been in a long term relationship. So I don't know why Amanda believes in this situation it would change. I do think that West is in love with her, or at least in lust. And I think for Amanda, I think she's really excited about the idea of a guy who's paying attention to her because, this is something that Kyle hasn't done for many, many years. They've basically been ships passing in the night. And I think she really likes the idea that this guy, Wes, is standing up for her, being there for her, supporting her. But at the end of the day, this is a guy who is not a monogamous guy. And I really don't think that's going to change just for her. And so for all of this to be worth it, I mean, it just seems so absolutely ridiculous because for you to lose out on this really great friendship that you have with Sierra and for you to basically abandon that friendship for a situationship just feels really ridiculous to me. It just truly does. But the way that this whole thing ended up coming out, where you have Kyle on Watch What Happens Live saying, I can't believe that this rumor has been in the news cycle for as long as it has. It seems sort of crazy to me. And then it all turned out to be true, right? Because they weren't being very secretive about it. They were telling people, they were holding hands on the snow day, apparently in front of Kyle, right? So, like, there are just so many weird instances that, sorry, not holding hands on the snow day in front of Kyle, but apparently we're holding hands in front of Kyle on like other instances and stuff. So it's just weird that this situation ended up coming out the way that it did because they really weren't doing that good a job at hiding it. But at the same time, we heard that Sierra had an inkling about this for quite a while. So did Jesse Solomon, and they had been talking about it for quite a while. And the rumor is that Hannah and Paige had hired a private investigator who wasn't able to find anything. And then a fan ended up catching West and Amanda doing it through a window and was able to capture that. Sierra ended up meeting up with the fan who was able to verify that this was true by seeing the video for herself. And because of that, that is how this all came out, right? But at the same time, like I said, other people were aware of it. So it seems strange that they were sort of keeping it a secret, but then sort of not at the same time. At the end of the day, I don't know what this means for the future of all of our shows. We know that Kyle and Amanda were supposed to be on In the City, but they're also getting divorced. So what does that mean? Do we watch them, on season 2 of In the City? Do we watch them separately as they navigate their divorce? If so, are we watching Amanda and Wes together as a couple on In the City? Because that's not what the show is supposed to be. And it's also not what we want to see. I don't think anyone wants to see him back on Summer House, and I don't think people want to see Amanda either. So I really don't know what this means for the future of the show, but it also seems to be like this was something that they had not thought about whatsoever or had not really considered in terms of how this would affect their careers, because West, we know, is the type of person who does not like confrontation. He doesn't like getting involved in the mix, and he wants to make sure that his reputation is intact. But now his reputation is in complete tatters. So, you know, It's just really interesting that they made this choice when at the end of the day, it's going to absolutely ruin their careers. Number seven, weight loss and fertility. So in season two, Amanda tells us on a podcast that she was dealing with a girl that worked under her, where she was basically this girl's boss. And this girl just basically hated her, made Amanda's life a living hell, and she started eating her feelings. So in season two, which was her first official season, because in season one, she was just hanging out with Kyle on the late night, that was when she was actually her heaviest. Amanda shared that while answering fan questions in April 2020 on an Instagram story, I don't know how much I weighed because I refused to step on a scale, but I would say I've lost between 15 to 20 pounds since then. And now I'm back down to the weight that I was in college. She added, I know that number might not sound really big compared to how I looked. It's not like I was huge, but I gained weight very evenly and I carry it in my face a lot too. But I had to buy a whole new wardrobe because I could not fit into my clothes from that year. Back in 2020, Amanda said that she was on an intermittent fasting schedule in order to lose what she felt like was the weight that she had gained prior to 2018. In addition, she drank bulletproof coffee and was cutting out all sugar and carbs. Instead, she wanted to load up on a lot of protein and vegetables while trying to lose weight. Still, she shared that at the time, she allowed herself to give in to her cravings in small doses so that she didn't overindulge. She also said that she didn't track her weight by numbers. She said, I avoided the scale for a full year because the numbers that you see don't matter. What mattered to me was how I felt in the clothes that I was wearing and how I physically felt about myself, she explained. As long as your favorite pair of jeans fit, that's the end goal. She also added that post weight loss, she added in back some sugar and carbs. Now, when she went off of birth control after getting married, she didn't end up getting her period for 8 months. And there's a Summer House season 7 episode, it was episode 3, where Amanda shared with her friends that she had concerns about her health and her fertility because she hadn't gotten her period in so long since she had gone off birth control the previous fall, and acknowledged that she was nervous to go see a doctor about it because she was worried about getting bad news about her health and fertility. She said on the show, you grow up and you think that you're just going to get married and get pregnant and you have kids and everything just goes according to plan. I just never thought that I would be in this situation where there's this chance that it's just not going to happen immediately and naturally. Now, this ended up being post-birth control syndrome because she was on the birth control pill for 10 years. Now, I've been on the pill for, oh my God, over 20 years. And I know that I have to go off of it soon because I know I'm going to hit menopause soon. And then it doesn't really make sense to be on it. I'm on it for my skin. And I am so terrified of what will happen if I go off of it, which is the reason that I haven't gone off of it. I have heard all of these horror stories about getting horrible cystic acne, not getting your period, all of these horrible things that will go on when you go off of the birth control pill because your hormones are trying to sort of re-regulate themselves. So it makes a lot of sense that she was going through issues with her skin and with her period and stuff like that. But it must have been really scary during a time when you're like, okay, I'm married, I want to start having kids, and now I'm not sure if I even can. But it's very Amanda Batula to not really look into this or kind of leave it on the back burner, which I remember her doing during that season where she was worried that she might not be able to have kids because she hadn't gotten her period in so long, but she also wasn't going to the doctor to deal with it because, you know, she's one of those people where if she doesn't know what's going on, it's easier in her brain to reconcile it. So she also revealed that as a result of going off of birth control, she was unintentionally and steadily losing weight. Something is happening, she said in an interview. It's weird being a woman. In a March Ask Me Anything session with her followers, Amanda responded to someone who wanted to know if she had breast reduction, noting that her breasts had gotten significantly smaller after going off birth control as well. Well, you know, she has told us in some other interviews that she has never had any work done besides microblading her eyebrows once. So again, the reduction in her breasts must have been just having lost weight after going off of birth control. In March 2023, after the season was airing, or while the season was airing, mind you, Kyle revealed that Amanda's health issues were actually more complicated than she had stated on the show. In addition to losing weight from stopping her birth control, Kyle said that Amanda was also on acne medication that was having the same side effect. There's obviously a lot more to it than what made it on the show, Kyle said. It actually breaks my heart. Kyle continued, it was tough because she was going through the weight loss, she's going through the acne, and oh, by the way, what's going on with her menstrual cycle and her fertility? I was so thankful for friends like Sierra Miller, who is a nurse, who was really kind and took her under her wing to start to understand what was going on. Very interesting that this is stated here. I mean, it really just shows how close Amanda and Sierra truly were and how integrated Sierra was into Amanda's life for Kyle to say, like, I'm so thankful that Sierra, who is a nurse, kind of made sure that Amanda knew what was going on and was taking the proper steps to make sure that, she was doing what she could to sort of, I don't know, help her fertility situation. So months after the summer concluded, Amanda appeared on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen in March 2023 to reflect on those conversations about her health journey. And she said that her health is a lot better now. Everything is flowing the way that it should, which obviously is referring to her period. But with regards to kids and fertility in general, she said that this is something that she is constantly getting pressure to do. Obviously, not anymore, though, now that she and Kyle are no longer together. But during the period of time that she and Kyle were together, it was constant pressure. When are you having kids? When are you having kids? When are you having kids? But once her mental health started to get better, which we'll get to in the next chapter, she decided that she wanted to focus just on her mental health, just on her own self, and kind of get focused on a career and work and things like that. And having kids is really not something that's on the forefront of her mind right now in terms of what she wants to do with her life. Chapter 8, Depression. So Amanda did this episode with a friend of hers from either elementary school or high school, this girl named Cam. The podcast was called Conversations with Cam, and this was an episode back in February 2025. Now, as I've mentioned before, Amanda does not do a lot of interviews, so this was one that I was able to find. I listened to it back when it had come out, but I re-listened to it now to try to get, a better sense of who Amanda is. When it comes to her depression, it was something that she didn't realize until sort of the better part of that final year. So late 2024. She said that she realized it was mostly a post-wedding blues thing, that it actually set it off and it got just so much worse because you have like this high of your wedding, you're all excited about it, all of these amazing things are going on, and then it's just sort of over. You go back to your regular normal life and you just sort of get these blues, according to her. And because she had never really worked on it or sort of pushed through it, it just got worse and worse and worse. And by the fall of 2023, she couldn't even go home for the holidays the way that she normally does. She couldn't even get up. She couldn't function. She couldn't pack. She couldn't do anything. And this is what made her realize that she really, really needed help. She realized that she was okay with dying, not in a suicidal way, but in a way where she just sort of felt comfortable with the idea. And she knew that that meant that she sort of had to look into this because it sort of scared her. She said that she's in a much better place now with her mental health, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. She's been on Prozac and thriving for 2 years now. She's going outside. I mean, literally, we see her going outside with Wes constantly now. And I wonder if a part of this has to do with her being on Prozac and her feeling more comfortable in her skin, in leaving the house, in doing all of those things, because we know that Amanda was the type of person that is a homebody. She likes to stay at home. She's not somebody that likes to go out a lot. But at the same time, ever since she's been on her antidepressants, she has been more vocal, more self-assured, more confident. And maybe that's what led to this whole situation with her and Wes to begin with. And maybe that's what's led to her being outside so much with him because, now that she's not suffering through her depression in the same way, even though Kyle argued that she is going through a depression now that she is with Wes and she's getting all of this backlash, let's just deal with it as an entity in a box where she's on Prozac and she is doing much better with her mental health. Maybe that's why she's able to go to bars and do all these things outside that she wasn't doing before, not because she was as much of a homebody or lazy or all of these things that Kyle said that she was, but maybe she was just so severely depressed that it was just too hard for her to get up and get out. Chapter 9, Amanda's Other Ventures. So we heard a couple seasons back that Amanda was really sick of just being Kyle's wife. Chapter 9, Amanda's Other Ventures. So, a couple seasons back, we definitely heard from Amanda that she was sick of being just Kyle's wife, just somebody who worked for Loverboy, and she wanted to start her own business ventures. Now, something that she was really interested in doing was starting a bathing suit line because she, as somebody who has very large breasts, was always struggling to find the right bathing suits to fit her body. She says that she has natural boobs and she wanted to create a swimwear line for the larger, more natural breasts. She wanted it to have hidden underwire and just make it very secure for people who have different types of bodies. But when her swimwear line came out, it did end up getting a lot of criticism. So I'm going to read this article from March 27th, 2025, that says $84 bikini tops to major backlash. Amanda Batula's new swimwear line has caused chaos. Ooh, chaos in the swimwear line. So the article says Amanda Batula has just launched a new swimwear line, but it's not quite got the support she hoped for. People are ripping into the Summer House star for the prices, such as $84 for a bikini top, but there is only one person who's had her back the entire time, her husband Kyle Cook, who runs his own business called Loverboy, which we obviously know. Amanda Batula has launched a new swimwear line. The entrepreneur released the collection of simple bikinis as well as patterned two pieces covered in the likes of cherries and red gingham check on February 18th. She spent weeks teasing the new collection drop, which is being sold exclusively on South Moon Under. Her husband, Kyle Cook, has been super supportive. She modeled the line herself as well as hired models to showcase how it looks on different body types. Amanda first partnered with South Moon for the swimwear collaboration in August 2024, so it's been several months in the making. Her Summer House co-star, Paige DeSorbo, showed her online order, which showed they're charging $40 for 2-day shipping or free shipping for a longer wait. Amanda hasn't quite gotten the reaction she hoped for after her swimwear launch. While there's still some people ecstatic over the swimwear designs, there's a lot genuinely bashing the expensive prices as it costs around $200 for a bikini set. Many who hope to buy from the new collection have taken to Reddit to discuss the costs. One Redditor said, "We need to unnormalize $200 swimsuits," while another said, "Yeah, I don't mean to be a hater, but these are so blah for way too much. Target has a better variety, more options, and cuter or basic quality designs for a fraction of the cost. And another thing people are mad about is the bra sizes only go up to double D." Wasn't she saying that she wanted to make swimsuits for larger chests? I thought that they would offer more options for larger DDD plus cup sizes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a standard sizing for most brands. I've seen similar sizes for lower price points, so I'm not sure what makes this unique other than it being her line. Hopefully, there are other options in the future, commented one person. So I think that really speaks volumes. I mean, it's all well and good to start a line, and you obviously have the built in following from the show, but you need to produce a product that people value. Just because you're out there and people like you, not anymore, but there was probably a period of time where people wanted to be supportive of you and wanted to buy these swimsuits and really saw themselves in you. But if you're not producing the product that you said that you would, and this is something interesting because in the very few interviews that she has done, she has said that she will not promote a product that she doesn't use herself, that she doesn't find to be something that is important to her. Yet here she comes out with this swimwear line, which doesn't really, even apply to her because she has larger breasts and it doesn't seem like the swimwear line even accommodates people with her body type, but let alone not accommodating the people that she said that she would try to accommodate, which are her viewers, her fans, her people, right? And so I think this probably disappointed a lot of people who either saw themselves in Amanda or were happy to support her, and then only to find out that this brand or this line was not what they thought it would be. And then obviously Amanda also did Winter House. Kyle and Amanda were on every season of Winter House, which had 3 seasons. It was 2001, 2022, 2021, 2022, and 2023. The show is obviously about an extended winter crossover trip for the younger shows like Southern Charm and Summer House and some of their friends. And they do activities like winter biking, dog sledding, and snowboarding, and just winter types of activities. Other notable people from Winter House have been Tom Schwartz, Corey Kiefer, and Katie Flood. So Kyle and Amanda have always been sort of that staple couple who are the mainstays of Summer House, Winter House, and all of its like shows. And on Winter House, they were on every single season, and they were, like I said, sort of that mainstay. But I really liked this show, even though it didn't get a lot of traction and a lot of people didn't like it, because I really like those crossover shows. I like the idea of having Southern Charm people with Summer House people. I think it's fun, and I think it's like a fun mix where it's almost like Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, but with some of the younger shows. Chapter 10, Loverboy. So we all know that Loverboy is Kyle's business venture. Now, this is something that Amanda was integrally involved in because she worked for Loverboy. Now, for the first 3 years that she did the show, Summer House, she was still working as a graphic designer and doing the show and helping Kyle with Loverboy, but she wasn't paid at first. Basically, they were only making enough money for her to cover her health insurance, and she just figured, all right, that's what I'll take on. Now, her parents ended up investing in Loverboy, and she has equity, but she doesn't really know much beyond that. Now that they are separated, she wants nothing to do with Loverboy. She said that that's his baby, even though she has done a lot for it. This is not something that she wants to take from him. Let's also keep in mind that Loverboy is like $4.2 million in debt. So if I were her, it wouldn't be something I would want either. I say all of this because remember that they don't have a prenup. So technically she is entitled to half, but that also means that she is entitled to half of the debt, which again is not something that anybody would really want. Now, as she worked for Loverboy, she worked as the creative director. She was very hands-on with that. But as the years went on, it sort of created strife between her and Kyle's relationship because they were working together, living together, doing Summer House together, right? So it's a lot of time spending together. And so they realized that it was better for her to take on sort of newer and bigger projects so she could separate herself from what Kyle was working on. So in the later years that she worked for Loverboy, she was basically just taking on new and big projects like Flower Boy, and she was integral in the limoncello. And she also designed a lot of the merch, right? So that was her main role in Loverboy, but as the years have gone on, she has taken more and more of a backseat when it comes to Loverboy. All right, you guys, that is the end of the episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I would have loved to have gotten more information about Amanda if I had had the time or the resources to do so. So don't come at me for not having as much information as I hope that I would have had. This is what I was able to find on a very short timeline. But it definitely had a lot more information about Amanda than I think we were all initially privy to. So I hope we all learned a little bit today. And I hope that you guys enjoy this series of episodes of Be True Hollywood Story. Now, remember that you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. You can join my Facebook page, which is also called The Bravo Investigator. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to monetize over there. So if you subscribe, it'll really help me get there. And don't forget that I have started a new podcast called All You Need Is You, a guide to living your best solo life. You can download that podcast wherever you get your podcasts every Friday. If you know anyone who is trying to live their best solo life or is looking for tips or tricks about how to do so, please direct them to the new podcast. All right, BBs, I love you, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator podcast. For more content, head over to patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator podcast. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.